still working on it. Come back in 5.
To be agile and not to be agile, that is the question.
Is that we truly put equal emphasis on personal and professional development. We pay as much attention to what leaders do as we do to who leaders are. We also put equal emphasis on the individual's history and aspiration and on the groups and social systems in which they operate. So we help participants explore and learn to manage the intersection between their own needs and expectations and the needs and expectations of the groups they're in. That is the space where leadership happens, or where it fails sometimes. Finally, our approach aims to not just develop individual leaders, but to develop what we call leadership communities as well. That is, groups of people that take joint responsibility and ownership for the existence, for the maintenance, and for the change, if necessary, of the organizations and communities in which they live and work. Because that's ultimately what leadership is working with others every day to make your organization and your community more like the one you'd like to live in.
That very often, actually, people assume much more control than they actually have. And we also show in these 4 domains the limits to predictability. Which is, so the point is not that the world is hopeless, that you shouldn't do anything, it's just that we should do a more careful assessment of what we can predict, what we can't predict, and wherever we can't predict, then the effort and resources is better spent on planning rather than hitting your head against the wall, trying to predict something which you can't predict anyway.
And if you ask the question, what is your self-aware? I think it's a combination of 3 things. It's a combination of the belief system that drives us. So effective leaders will have a better belief system. Number 2, it is the ability to use emotions intelligently. And thirdly, it is about the ability to think clearly. Now, this may sound like a no-brainer, but what I realized watching a lot of leaders all over the world and doing a lot of work with them is that this is one of the most difficult things to achieve.
And then the systemic risks. We understand that these will become much more virulent, that what we see today is this interweaving of societies, of systems, fastened by technologies and hastened by just-in-time management systems. Small levels of stock push resilience into other people's responsibility. The collapse in biodiversity, climate change, pandemics, financial crises, these will be the currency that we will think about. And so a new awareness will have to arise of how we deal with these, how we mobilize ourselves in a new way and come together as a community to manage systemic risk. This could be our best century ever because of the achievements, or it could be our worst. And of course we need to worry about the individuals, particularly the individuals that feel that they've been left out in one way or another. An individual for the first time in the history of humanity will have the capacity by 2030 to destroy the planet, to wreck everything through the creation, for example, of a biopathogen. How do we begin to weave these tapestries together? How do we think about complex systems in new ways? That will be the challenge of the scholars and of all of us engaged in thinking about the future. And the rest of our lives will be in the future. We need to prepare for it now. We need to understand that the governance structure in the world is fossilized. It cannot begin to cope with the challenges that this will bring. We have to develop a new way of managing the planet, collectively, through collective wisdom.
personal.
Intuitive.
In the words of the great sportsman, float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
For me, I think agility is learning how to adapt our thinking within the complex and ever-changing environment.
It's the opportunity to listen to great leaders in leadership, learn from others, mix with my cohorts of cross-BU people, and hopefully turn out to be a great leadership in the future.
Agility to me means kind of like quick like a panther. Exactly.
Pandemic.
Learning agility describes a person's speed to learn.
Open to new possibilities and able to act on them.
New friends and leadership.